Hi, I'm Kayla Hathaway, a partner here at Cimpatico Studios. Cimpatico is a platform dedicated to cultivating conversations and actions on complex social issues with professionals all around the world. On the Climate EDU channel, I interview academics about university programs, careers, research, internships, and published literature like books and papers. If you're interested in being a guest, we'd love to hear from you. And now, on to today's show. Hello everyone and welcome back to Climate EDU. I am your host, Kayla Hathaway, and today I'm joined by the incredible Joseph Tumber Davila. And Joseph is a Puerto Rican scientist and PhD candidate in environmental earth system science at Stanford University. He's also the founder and director of the YouBelong Program, which is designed to introduce careers in the sciences to youth in underserved Bay Area communities. Today he's going to be discussing the YouBelong Program, which is the initiative designed to introduce the careers to K-12 students in underserved communities to increase their comfort level, confidence, and sense of belonging in the earth sciences. Joseph, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this opportunity and to share what we've been working on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to learn more about these kinds of initiatives, especially right now with COVID. So it's really it's really like uplifting and reassuring.
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge figuring out how to turn an outreach program into a virtual program, but it's been a lot of fun.
Mhm. Yeah, lots of new innovations and experiences and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and all the great technical problems that go along with it.
Oh, absolutely. But you can't have like, what is it, the most common mistake? It's like, am I muted or am I not?
Yeah, muting, sharing screen, all the passing the baton from one person to another.
Mhm.
It's all fun to figure out. And when you get people when you get people that are new to science outreach and communication like me and being a grad student, it's kind of like it's a great challenge to tackle.
It's like, okay, we're going back to everyone quietly raising their hands on my line. Well,
Yeah.
go and jump right on into it then. So, can you give us like just a brief rundown of what this program is? Then we can dive into the specifics on what it is that you guys do.
Yeah, fantastic. So the Pertenecer, or You Belong in English program, is a science outreach program that was created by myself and a couple other Stanford graduate students. And it's really meant to show students that they belong in spaces like Stanford and Stanford Earth, especially for students that have never really had an experience on a college campus, don't really have any exposure to what scientific careers are like. So pre-COVID, we used to do a lot of really hands-on in-person events. We would have scientists go to classrooms to do activities with students, and we would bring students to campus and just create that sense of belonging in the space. So many of the students that come or and are in You Belong programming had live so close to the campus, yet they've never stepped foot on the campus. And just showing that this isn't like a country club that is separate from your world, that is something that there are Latino students, there are students of color in this space. And, it's not just a place that's out there, out of reach. And so that's why we decided to name it You Belong and Pertenecer, just for that simple fact that that's kind of our goal of the program.
No, and that's actually kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like just the realization of how close you can be to that kind of campus, but to never be able to, or have never had the experience of getting to be on that campus. Like, so that's one. Thank you for
Yeah, no, I
for
mean,
doing this. Like,
there's just too many students that it's not until you get to high school and you're filling out college applications that you finally start thinking about, well, what do I want in college? Do I need to go to college? What do I want to do?
mhm,
And even myself, I mean, I created the You Belong program because I was seeing something that I had experienced. I grew up, I think, less than a quarter mile from a university in a town called Humacao in Puerto Rico.
mhm.
And, you know, having a university right there, and I was basically in its backyard, but still having no perception of what it is like to go to college. What do people do in a college? What is a scientist? My only connection to that university was I would go and walk the track every once in a while. That doesn't really help you when you're applying to colleges and trying to figure out what to do for your next step of your career. So we're just trying to get those experiences for students at an earlier age so they can start to develop and think about different possibilities for themselves.
So, how is it that you go out and reach out to the K to 12 students? Is it well, like pre-COVID, like going on campus, or has it been more kind of like workshops that you have available outside of school hours? How do you do that outreach?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think a lot of what the success of this program deals with who the community partners we've been working with are. For example, we don't really go and find individual students, but we go and find maybe classrooms, or we go and find after school programs that are interested in having some more exposure kind of programming. So as a student group, we don't really have the funding necessarily to bus students and to bring students and to feed all the students and all this. So a lot of the help comes from uh, outreach programs and after school programs that have a set population of students that they're already working with, and we're able to kind of provide them the experience for those students to expand on the outreach and the learning. And it's really great to, to once we get into a school or a classroom and really like create that connection, so then we can continuously work with that school again and create that experience for all the grades as like we move forward. So it's been a lot of really organic, like, I'll meet a teacher and say, hey, well, you know what, we have this program, and what about us taking over your classroom for an hour? And most of the time they're pretty okay with that. So it works out. It's a win-win.
Nice. And so what kind of like events or discussions do you have when you're going in, whether it's like an hour in the classroom or when you do like a bigger gathering? Like what kind of things do you offer?
Yeah, the programming has been super unique, and we try to tailor it to each program. But to give a couple examples, because we're all School of Earth students, we like to introduce fields in the environmental and earth sciences to students. So, for example, we had one student go into a classroom, and she brought these really great these styrofoam cups, which aren't very environmentally friendly, but she had the students decorate them, and then she went on a research cruise, and in a submarine brought the styrofoam cups to the bottom of the ocean, and these cups that the students had decorated had just shrinked all the way down to like about this size. So from a full size cup to like less than a little shot glass. And she brought them back and just talked about ocean sciences. And she had some really great pictures at the bottom of the ocean. There was a bag of Takis. I don't know if you know what they are, but they're like spicy rolled tortillas that was found in the bottom of the ocean. And when she showed that to the students, they were like, oh my God, like I eat those all the time. Like that could have been my bag of chips, you know? And then they saw their cups and they knew it was their cups because they had the chance to decorate them. And so in all of that, we're not really talking too much science, but we're really presenting what marine sciences are, and also humanizing like what it is to be a scientist. They met a scientist and had all this like experience, all this time with them. And so that's an example of what an in school, like taking over a classroom for an hour event was like. And then when we bring students to our campus, it's kind of different, right? Because again, now we're focusing on the belonging aspect and just showing students that that this is a space that they could be in, that they belong in. And so we'll do a tour of campus, but also we like to do a lot of really fun demonstrations. There's another lab that has a whirlpool, and they'll show how ocean currents and try to focus on like really visual things. So they'll use food dye to show how ocean currents move around and create whirlpools and these kinds of experiences. Because I'm a forest ecologist, so I study trees. I'll have students take a core of a tree. So we take like the drill bit and we twist it into the tree, and they can see each individual like ring from the tree and just like learn, okay, well, this is a career. This is something people can do. Um, and so the on-campus experiences are really just showcasing what the environmental sciences are, and then that like just stepping foot on campus has a huge impact. Um, yeah, my favorite event though, I'd have to say, was we did a tour for a school in San Jose, which is not too far from us, about 30 minutes from our campus. And we did this tour in English and Spanish, and we had no idea. We just told the school, hey, I'm going to give this tour in English and Spanish. Like whoever comes, it'll be great. It's a Saturday morning. I'm not expecting a lot of people to come. And then here shows up buses with 150 people from this school, including like families and grandmas and strollers, because they were just excited to have a tour in Spanish, that was accessible to the families. And you have parents like going up to we had a couple of grad student volunteers, and you have parents going up and be like, well, this isn't really a place I could go, right? It's expensive, uh, there's no possible way my kids go here. And then you start talking to parents and let them know, hey, well, most of us that are here, we actually don't pay. I'm a graduate student, I get paid to go here. If I had to pay $100,000 a year, I couldn't be here. And so it's working on letting the students know, but I think the families are a huge part, right? We have many families in the Bay Area that also don't understand like what it is to be at a place like Stanford. So it's kind of burning the candle at both ends there.
And so, are all of the tours now like having that experience where you did it in both Spanish and English? I'm assuming then that everything is now included, like bilingual for the You Belong program. I mean, with the name like also being I'm gonna mess it up. Pertencer, right?
Yeah, that was great. Pertenecer. Again, it's just
Pertenecer.
belonging, and
There we
you
go.
belong in Spanish. And yeah, we try to have a lot of bilingual content, but now we start to have just events focused just in Spanish, especially with now being virtual. We've have just events where we're talking about science in Spanish for a broad audience. So a lot of bilingual programming and a lot of just Spanish programming.
That's really good. And so with the um like going through it, we have so many like points. I'm trying to make sure we hit all of them. So, okay, so after COVID,
Mhm.
like now and everything.
Yeah.
So how have you guys been I think the word I'm like not really like compensating, but like adjusting to being able to provide accessibility for these kids with this program? Because there's a lot of from yeah, you see reports about like people who don't have access. And so how are you kind of like able addressing that to still reach
Yeah.
out to them?
Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, we had to go through a major transition, right? We were going from opportunities where we're going in a classroom and being with the students, like very close and hands-on, doing hands-on activities, and also opportunities where we're bringing students to campus. And at this point, that's just impossible. I can barely go to campus, let alone bring like 100 people to campus.
Mhm.
So, but we realized there were also a lot of opportunities here, right? With in-person events, there's a lot of costs, whether it's transportation or providing lunch for students if it's a longer experience, or lunch for your attendees, and even all the materials for all the demonstrations. So we thought, and so we could also only like do events with very, very local students. They had to be able to come to campus. And we use this new opportunity to kind of expand out to be much more global. Um, and our first attempt at this was, we said, okay, let's start with a super small event. Let's just invite students that are interested in graduate school from across the US. We partnered with this great program called the McNair Post-Baccalaureate Program, and it's a federally funded program trying to get students interested in grad school. So we said, okay, McNair programs, they have campuses they have like chapters or offices at different institutions. And we said, okay, we're a bunch of Stanford students in Stanford Earth. We'll do a panel for you and we'll see how this goes out. This is our first virtual event. We had no idea how this was going to work out. And it went really fantastic. We had people tune in from like Texas, Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, a couple other states. And we said, well, I guess maybe we've been thinking about this whole not being able to do events in person thing the wrong way. Maybe we can actually use this as an opportunity. And now we've continued having virtual events. Some are focused on just we've had a series of events called Graduate School's Hidden Curriculum. It's all
Okay.
about showing students again that coming from all over the place, what it means to go to graduate school. What are the tips and tricks people know, like no one told you? What does it mean to have a PhD or to go for a PhD? In our first event, we said, okay, we're going to have all international students on our panel. And this was in the summer when there was the executive order that was affecting whether or not graduate students could like come to the US. So we said, we're just going to provide all the information for graduate students. And the turnout was fantastic. We had over 100 live attendees from almost actually from every continent except for Antarctica. And so we had
The
people,
penguins didn't want to tune in.
yeah, exactly. We had people in India joining us at like 2 in the morning for our event. Africa, a lot from Europe and South America. And so that was just like super eye opening, just seeing that there are people out there interested in like learning more and being reached out to, and people that haven't traditionally been reached out to because most of our focus has been on in-person events. And so since then, we've started doing more regular events. The one in the one event that we've had that is in Spanish is called Conciencia en las Americas, and this is just a Spanish language science event meant for a broad audience, and the success in that has been just fantastic. And it's great to see how the turnout's been from all over.
So moving forward, do you think that when everything with COVID starts to mellow out, whenever that is,
Yeah.
that the program is going to continue with like the virtual conferences and events since it seems to be so successful?
Yeah, I think it'll almost have like two faces to what we're doing, right? We're going to continue the virtual events because the outreach to Latin American countries and other countries around the world is super beneficial, and I think there's just not enough programming and content out there for that. But there's still in our backyard here at Stanford, we still have some of the highest levels of educational and income inequality. So we can't just forget about the our neighboring communities that still need a lot of this kind of programming. So hopefully we'll have kind of two fronts tackling all of it.
Mhm. No, I think that would be really awesome to see where you are able to have all of your in-person like events and collaborations and still helping with the Bay Area and then being able to show those experiences digitally and be like, hey, y'all can do this too. And like
Yeah.
I feel like it could mesh together really well, and I'm very excited to see how that shapes up to be once we're allowed to go back outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And we've had a ton of support from like the School of Earth at Stanford, which is the school that we're a part of. And so our goal is just, as PhD students, we're not going to be there forever. So now we're just at the point where we're trying to like keep this going for a long time, get some institutional support behind it, and try to make it a really cemented in program.
And so with like the rest of this year, what kind of events are you guys planning? Like, any like meeting scientists type things or like open discussion? If you want to tell us a little bit what the rest of this of 2020, I was gonna say almost 2021. I'm like, wait, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Like the rest of 2020 looks like for the You Belong program.
Yeah, great question. So for us, we really want to start having more of those meet a scientist type events. So similar to what our in-school outreach was, we want to start doing virtual meet a scientist where a scientist will have a demonstration and whether it's we want to really tie it with being like subject area content. So if you're a science teacher and you have a lesson on volcanology, then like we could have a volcanologist come in and do a demonstration. And so if any of you know or are science teachers from anywhere across the world that would like to have a Stanford graduate student come and do a demonstration, I'd be totally happy to facilitate that. And we have so many graduate students that are interested in having that outreach.
Yes. So anyone listening on YouTube or Simpatico, Joseph's Twitter on this scene you can see is under his webcam. Please reach out to him immediately.
Yeah, the DMs are open, the Twitter, email, whatever.
Yeah. Gonna go
And
slide into those DMs.
yeah, all the science teachers just feel free to slide into the DMs there.
Hey, there we go. um, so I guess like for man, this is going by so quickly. Okay. I'm trying to think of like the best question to ask for like last for this. So I guess we kind of touched on it, but like what is your like the long-term goals for this program? So like if we're talking like where do you see You Belong being in like the next 5 to 10 years and the kind of impact that you hope that it has?
Yeah, that's so moving forward, I think having we mentioned having the Spanish content, and
Mhm.
before we just had this the program was called You Belong at Stanford Earth, and we added the Pertenecer because we realized there was a huge need in that area. And with this new, so we actually event we have moving forward is our biweekly Conciencia event that I was mentioning, and that's actually being co-organized um, with another group called Antarctica CL, or Antarctica Chile, and they have over 50,000 followers on Twitter. So they've
Oh,
been
geez.
huge. Yeah, they've been a
Yeah.
huge force in getting people to watch the event. And in this event, what we do is we get one scientist, like a Latin American scientist in the U.S., one Latin American scientist in Latin America, talk about science for a broad audience, and the connections that we've been able to make through that have just been fantastic. So we really want to see this moving on forward. For example, we had one of our guests who has a podcast, and he was a huge fan of the other scientists we had on from Chile, and just first making that connection in person. And now I think a week later, the Chilean scientist was on the Puerto Rican scientist podcast, and now they're like great friends, having never met before. And we have some of our guests being invited to give talks in other countries. So just facilitating this connection between scientists across the Americas and across many countries working on similar topics. I think we really want to continue that. And then beyond just connecting the scientists, we're creating this content for a broad public, right? So we ask a lot of questions of messaging for the next generation of scientists, how to get involved in the sciences, what piqued the scientists' interest in their careers. So that's one thing that I don't see ever like not doing that program, because it's just been so much fun putting that together. But in the grand scheme of things, I hope that by the time I leave Stanford, that the Pertenecer YouBelong program is just a fixture at Stanford Earth, as part of what it means to do outreach and what it means to work with the community, especially the local communities of San Jose and Redwood City, East Palo Alto, that we've been doing most of our in-person events with.
And with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on Cimpatico today and like showing us about You Belong. And the invitation, like I mentioned before, is always open. Anytime you want to come on to talk about events or like a panel thing or want to connect with anyone, you're more than welcome to slide into my Twitter DMs.
Awesome.
And I will make sure that we get you on here.
Thank you. Well, I really love this opportunity. I could talk about Pertenecer You Belong for forever, as you could probably tell.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of fun, and I think for a lot of scientists, we only go into this field because we're so passionate about our science and sharing it. So it's been a great outlet to like connect with people on that front. So thank you.
Oh yeah, like to go into STEM, you have to either one just be incredibly passionate or two be incredibly bored, I would say. But then that boredom would eventually turn into like incredible passion for it because there's just so much to learn. And
Yeah.
then just to give back to your communities with all the knowledge that you learn.
Yeah, and
Um,
the opportunities for science communication are endless, right? We see that there's a need for science communication based on just our atmosphere in the U.S.
oh yeah.
And we can do a lot better. Not saying that we have any, we know any tricks or anything, but I think everyone can do a little bit.
Mhm. I mean, just by being able to have like conversations like this, be like, hey, so this exists. It's really cool, and y'all should be involved because it's
Yeah,
awesome. Well,
exactly.
mhm. So we're gonna go ahead and roll into just chatting. So just hold tight. Be right back.